Well, we beat the unbeaten team. 20 minutes until 20 minutes before they came out against us, they were top of the league, and we beat them. How do we feel? How do you feel? We got to feel okay. We're not going to get ecstatic, but it was a comprehensive, thorough, professional, and at times quite inspired performance against the team that looked as though they're going to be the nailed-on promotion candidates for next season, and we beat them. We beat them at home. Okay, the wind played a part. I mean, that's a leveller for both sides. It doesn't necessarily make life easier for us because we know about the wind on Fratton Park, but the wind played a part. The referee played a part because he was somebody who didn't want to whistle. He gave nothing. He gave some things against us that we didn't like, so we kind of thought maybe he's a whistle-happy referee because we all hate that, and there's plenty of it about. But on this particular occasion, this referee, dressed in lilac, I'm sorry to go off on a tangent, but who decides what outfits these referees and their assistants wear? It's lilac today against Middlesbrough. A nice sort of a gentle colour that would complement some rather nice drapes. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. He didn't blow up for much. And one of the things that we know about footballers, is that during the first 10 minutes of the game, they assess their opposition because they're going to be playing more or less against the same player or a couple of players for the whole of the game. You know, if you're a defender, you know which attacker is going to be up against you, and so you assess his abilities and his weaknesses, and then, across the pitch. But we assess the referee, and we assess the opposition. The wind you can't access. So these things were peripheral things, because if you actually go to the meat of the game, we deserved to beat them. We were better than them. Just marginally in lots of departments. Some departments not so. Stats will say different things about their possession. I mean, they had at one point 350 successful passes compared to our 200, but it was 1-0. And you wouldn't have said that from looking at the game, because we were as good as they were. Maybe they're tired. Maybe tiredness is a big thing in football now. Maybe the day will dawn when Premier League football teams are made up entirely of Kenyan and Ethiopian marathon runners, because you're now running for almost the same amount of time as a marathon, except instead of just running, you're sprinting and stopping and sprinting and stopping and then running and stopping. In a way, playing a game of football like we saw today against Middlesbrough is as tiring as running a bloody marathon. But that's neither here nor there. The game itself, isn't Yang Min-hyuk class? He came off again because I'm not sure if he can last the pace. He's been brought off a couple of times before, after, and brought on, with 20 minutes to go, and he shines. We haven't seen him shine the way he can shine for a full 98 minutes, which is what a football game is now. But it's obviously in there. He's class. What a goal. What a goal to win an important game with. What a strike. It was from nowhere. Was he picked out by Jordan Williams from where he crossed the ball? I don't know. I've watched it back a couple of times, and I can't say for sure that he was picked out. But he found the ball coming to him. He dropped back from their centre halves, and he dropped back so that he was in a position to, if somebody cut the ball back, he would get it. He did. He got it. He scored with it. That's the second time in 2 games that he scored exactly like that, by being back a little bit off the sort of congestion that you get with the back four. So well done him. He's obviously going places. We will talk, won't we, longingly in the future about the times that we had this guy who could go on to be, Spurs, Man U, Real Madrid. Who knows? Played for us. So that's a big plus. Connor Chapman is still not at his 100% best. I don't think anybody would argue with that. Am I wrong? Oh, by the way, the email address is radiopompey@gmail.com. I don't think Connor Chaplin has quite got up to speed for whatever reason. And I think he'd probably be the first person to say that, because he's a great footballer and an honest guy. And actually, John Swift hasn't quite clicked, hasn't quite pulled off those moments that a player like Swift and Chaplin are hired to do. They're there to pull off little moments, to open up defences, to intrigue the opposition and intrigue the fans, and sometimes intrigue their own players with unexpected things that work. And that hasn't quite happened yet. Middlesbrough had an extra man in midfield. They played three at the back, and it was blatant. We got three at the back. That means that we outnumber you in the middle of the park. But you wouldn't have known it, would you? Did it look to you as though we were constantly outnumbered in the middle of the pitch? I personally didn't think so. Did you? I mean, we matched them. But partly we matched them because of the legwork. And, we'll come on to and back to stamina time and time again, because the commentators I was listening to were saying that Pompey were looking tired, and we were looking tired towards the end of that game, because everybody on that pitch ran so hard and so much that stamina became an important factor. We know in football that pace is important, skill is important, tactical understanding is important, so many things are important, but just being able to keep going for 98 minutes at that kind of expenditure of energy is a particular skill, or naturally occurring facet of your game, of your personality, of your body, that there's not a lot you can do about it if you haven't got it. And one or two Pompey players and a great many Middlesbrough players were looking knackered. And that's why I think you see so many goals going in all four divisions in 90 plus 05. You see that, don't you? Well, not 05. 90 plus 8, 90 plus 1, 90 plus 2. You see it time and time and time again. And it's because people are getting tired. So it's now a big factor in the way the beautiful game is now played. Being able to keep going and going and going. And we did. Did you notice that Colby Bishop, who had little to cheer about in the game because he was smothered by two extremely competent and big and powerful centre-halves, but did you notice the moment when he won a free kick? Two moments about Bishop. One, when he held off his centre-half, a long ball was coming to him, and he held off his centre-half so well that he was able to trap the long ball at his feet. How many times do you see that? He did it. But also, he actually got a foul given in his favour, almost in our third, right? He came back and did a lot of defending, and he got a foul in our third, in his favour, and he celebrated like he got a goal. One of the commentators said so. Bishop is celebrating getting a free kick as if he's just scored one. And you can understand why, because he gets fouled an awful lot. He gets roughed up an awful lot. He spends Saturday afternoons, if it's a Saturday afternoon kickoff, just being fouled, being pushed and shoved and knocked around. And he's not the biggest man on the pitch. Some of the men on the pitch are significantly bigger than him, but he still more than holds his own because he's good at what he does. We survived the first minutes of the second half. One of the things, as a football fan, I'm sure you sympathise with this observation, is we remember the last game, and because of the last game in which we conceded a couple of goals just in the very first moments of the second half, you kind of found yourself on the edge of your seat thinking, well, we'd better not concede a goal in the first 5 minutes of the second half, and then we'll be on our way. And we didn't, and we were. Subs, Swift was replaced by Koznovsky, who looked very good. Swift is still looking for his mojo for us, but he has his moments. He's obviously a class player, and it'll happen. And then the other subs, Segs and Devlin, Zagacic and Terry Devlin, on for Williams and Chaplin. Interesting set of substitutions there. Bringing off Williams, bringing on Devlin. Yep, got that. Devlin, of course, can play anywhere, plays where he wants. Connor Chaplin coming off. You could paint that as being Connor still isn't match fit for 98 minutes. So he was tiring a little bit. And then there are those who will say he wasn't doing it quite as he can, because we know his class. We loved him coming. We loved him being with the club, but he wasn't quite producing the goods. And Segacic, he buzzes. He didn't get much of a chance to buzz, and he will no doubt say to John Messina at some point, as Australians are quite happy to do, because they're blunt people, they're forthright people, Australians. They are forthright, friendly, and thirsty. I don't know what he does with his thirst, but I can guess what he does with his forthrightness when it comes to saying to John Messina, I've got to start me. Because I can do what Yang Min Hyok is doing now. Man Yin Hok, we don't need to dwell on him at all, again and again and again, because we're so blessed to have this guy. Stats. Coming in for the end of the first half, they had possession in the high 50s, percentage-wise, and we had much less than them. But the chances in the second half, one of which we converted, and the other of which fell to Connor Chaplin, and he probably was on target with that, but it got an unfortunate deflection. So, yeah, okay, you can have 60% of possession, but if the other team get the only two clear chances of the half, then that possession amounts to nothing, because that doesn't get you points. What gets you points is goals. The refs of this day and age, I've had many arguments in the last few weeks about the quality of refereeing that goes on, and I always try to defend referees, but I felt today's referee, if you're a player, you play professional football, you spend the first 10 minutes of the game assessing the players that you're playing against and also what kind of a referee you've got. And today's referee didn't blow the whistle. He let things go. And so you work with that. You know that you can actually be a bit more abrasive on the pitch, and you're less likely to give away a free kick, less likely to get a yellow card. Does it affect the score? Not today. It maybe can do sometimes, but I don't think so today. Do players are players asked to practice high balls in training? Because it seems to me that we get an awful lot of high balls. And today it was with a dreadful wind. The wind was swirling around all over the place, and the ball spent a lot of time in the air. And so every time the ball's in the air, it's a 50-50 the way it comes down. Can you practice that? You can practice a little bit what Colby Bishop knows, which is how to fend off the defender and get your head on or your chest, or sometimes, like today, your feet on the ball first. But is it something you can practice? And how do you practice in training 50-50s? Because 50-50s are necessarily, injuries waiting to happen. They're shin jobs. You can't surely practice 50-50s on the training ground. If you're having a practice match, you can say no 50-50s, or you can say 50-50s. I want to see who wins the 50-50s. And that might be one of the reasons why there are more injuries in training than there used to be, or so it seems. So Middlesbrough brought on a £6 million substitute. We didn't. We brought on Kozinevsky, and we brought on Segs and Devlin, and these are strong players to have as substitutes, and we exploited them well. We used them well, and they impose themselves on the game. So our bench is solid, and we're a solid squad. And you can tell we're a solid squad because we beat the team that was unbeaten in the league. We beat the team which up until 20 minutes before kickoff was top of the league, and we're now 2 points away from the playoffs. 2 points away from the playoffs. Yes, we've had a quiet patch. That happens in football. Hold your nerve. Or as the colour sergeant says in Zulu, all right now.